Hello and welcome back everyone to the video series dedicated show on MTV that wants to be a maverick. That's right, we're talking about The Challenge Season 37, Spies, Lies, and Allies, Episode 14. Now let's start off where last episode left off, and that was where we had Logan going up against Corey in the rope burn elimination where Logan won, swapped teams, he went to the Sapphire team taking Kyle's spot, and Kyle was back on the Ruby team, and coming back to the Challenge House, we have Kyle yelling at the top of his lungs, Ruby! Which, can I just say, I'm enjoying Kyle more on the Ruby team than he was on the Sapphire team, just so he can yell Ruby over and over again. We move on to the kitchen where Logan and Nelson are having a conversation where Nelson asks, why did you switch over to the Sapphire team? And Logan says that if anybody else on a different team called him out, then he would come back to the Ruby team, no problem. But because Corey called him down, and Corey was part of the Ruby team with him, that he had no choice in his brain but to swap teams. Then at some point, we have Tori and Casey wrestling in the kitchen, and Tori is having this confessional talking about how she loves the Emerald team. She is so happy with the Emerald team. She wants to stay on the Emerald team the whole time, and it's crazy that nobody has infiltrated them yet. And Amanda goes, yeah, just watch what I do in this episode. We move on to the next day where Big T is talking to Logan about the game, and she is saying that as the competition starts whittling down, her chances of going into the elimination or being called out to the elimination get bigger and bigger. And she says if she wins the elimination, she doesn't want to stay on Ruby team, she doesn't want to go to Emerald team, but she wants to infiltrate the Sapphire team. Upon hearing this, and maybe there is a spidey sense that CT has, he comes walking up to the conversation and he starts talking to Big T about either staying on the Ruby team or going to the Emerald team, and Big T is like, nah, I really wanted to go to the Sapphire team, and CT is really trying to push her in an opposite direction. We know how CT feels about Big T as a competitor, and we even get a confessional from Logan saying that if Big T were to come over to the Sapphire team, that he would switch back over to the Ruby team if he had to. So the SmackDown coming at Big T just keeps on coming as the season goes on. We move over to a conversation between Josh and Amanda where Amanda is saying that if she gets called into the elimination, she is going to infiltrate the Emerald team because that is her best option, and she is asking Josh, who can she swap places with? And Josh is like, if you were to infiltrate a team, how about you go back to the Sapphire team? We would much prefer you to do that. And Amanda says, that's not what we're talking about. Give me a name on who I can swap out with. He tells Amanda that he wants to run a final with Casey and Nany, giving her the okay to swap places with Tori in a roundabout way. So Amanda says that's all I needed to hear. Then everybody dons their gear, heads over to the daily mission to meet up with TJ, who comes riding in on a nice motorcycle for this week's daily mission called Submerged. Now this mission was inspired by the new movie Top Gun Maverick, which is going to premiere at some point soon in the near future. So what players are going to have to do is get into this mock fighter jet, and then as it submerges into the water, they're going to have to get out of their seats, grab up all the puzzle pieces, and then put the puzzle together by looking at the legend that's underneath the fighter jet's wing. The team that can put their puzzle together the quickest wins into the agency, wins power, and wins safety. Now I have to say that I am a fan of these like gimmick daily missions where there's like big old fighter jet and people get to dress up in their Maverick gear, their Top Gun gear, and it even inspired me to get my own jumpsuit and put on my own patches, and it's just really fun. It also tested everyone in their abilities to communicate with each other, to be in the fighter jet, to put the puzzle together. I will say the only thing that I have a critique on is that this was a little weird having an underwater challenge where the competitors had to swim around a sunken object for 2 missions in a row. Like last week, they had to untie a rope around a sunken ship, and now they're getting puzzle pieces around a fighter jet. I just thought this was pretty redundant having 2 underwater missions back to back, but I really enjoyed this mission. I thought it was interesting to watch. I thought the editing was pretty good on it. Let's move into this daily mission where we have Emerald team is up first, and coming into this mission, I'm going, okay, they have to collect 25 puzzle pieces. This is going to be a snap for 6 players to be just diving in and going around this jet easily, as the other 2 teams have 4 people. It's going to take them significantly longer to collect all the puzzle pieces, but collecting the puzzle pieces is only half the solution, and even Emerald couldn't do that right, because at one point they were missing one piece, and come to find out that Josh had it clipped onto his pant leg, and it was one of the first puzzle pieces he found, and he clipped it onto him so he wouldn't lose it. But he didn't lose it so much that he lost it right underneath his nose, to the point where he was like, oh yeah, I do have this puzzle piece. But once they had the puzzle pieces, then that's when we got to see that the real communication between the Emerald team really broke down, as they had 3 players in the water trying to yell out the code to Nani and Devin, who were trying to put the puzzle together, and they were giving them all different lines. They were giving some from right to left and left to right. It was absolutely madness, to the point where they finally figured out that they had the puzzle like backwards, and so they had to just swap all the pieces. They finally clocked in a time that was not very impressive, but then we had the Ruby team coming in, and they were feeling a little bit more confident. I think they came in with a pretty solid plan, especially after watching how the Emerald team kind of disintegrated on each other. However, they disintegrated on their own. Their plan kind of went to hell in a handbasket. They weren't working well with their communication. They were losing puzzle pieces. There was a lot of blame to Big T because she left her puzzle pieces in the back seat of this fighter jet. And really, Big T does not want to be on the Ruby team anymore. Amanda is pretty much set on going into the elimination. She feels like she's going to be called out anyways, so why not just be vulnerable to going into the elimination? This is my thought. They didn't come out saying that they actually threw this challenge, but I just didn't see that the Ruby team was giving their full 100%, or it just didn't seem like that way in the edit, unless they were making pretty basic mistakes, which could happen in this scenario. Anyways, Ruby DQ'd. They logged into time too long, and they had to blow them out. So then we move on to the Sapphire team, who is a well-oiled machine with their 4 competitors. Ashley was going to put the puzzle together. CT was going to yell out the legend to Ashley, and then Logan and Emmy were going to swim around and just make sure they got all the puzzle pieces. Of course, they were missing a puzzle piece as well, but Emmy was able to find it no problem underneath the back wing of the jet, and they were able to put this puzzle together in record timing. There was no even question that they didn't win this, because Devin was saying on the sidelines like, oh, they found the puzzle piece. I know that we just lost, but I'm pretty proud of the Sapphire team. So they lock in a win. Sapphire wins into the agency. Finally a team that isn't Emerald winning into the agency and coming back to the challenge house. That's when Big T and Casey are talking, and Big T is like, I know I'm going in regardless. I would like to be the house vote, and I would like to go up against Amanda, and then I will swap over to the Sapphire team. Later on, when we go to the club, which was a Top Gun style party with like flight hats and aviators, and everybody was having a good time, we see the group of Big T and the Emerald women are talking, and that's when Amanda is like, are they plotting something? Are they getting ready to like be buddy buddies and then try to get me eliminated? So she goes over and crashes the party, starts some stuff up with them, kicking up dirt, saying like, I want to be the agency vote and nobody is safe. I will pick whoever I want to go down there. And this is when we hear Casey go, will you pick me? I want to go up in elimination against you. And Amanda's like, possibly, maybe. Like, this is interesting to bring up, because I think this would have been fun to see as a strategy, to where Casey could come up to the Sapphire team and be like, hey, to make sure that Emerald sticks together, I kind of want to be sent into the elimination. I want to pick Amanda. And then that could have been a way to keep the Emerald team safe. But we do not see that, because when the Sapphire team is having their talk with each other, that's when Logan is like, hey, we shouldn't be throwing in Big T because she possibly wants to come infiltrate our team, so maybe we should think of a different strategy. And I think Logan and Ashley are thinking of a way to start picking off the Emerald players and maybe send one of them into the elimination via the agency vote. But CT is like, I don't want that to happen. They've been keeping us safe for this whole time. They could have sent me in. Let's keep them all intact, and let's just look out for them because they were looking out for us. And this is the line of thinking that is just baffling in my brain, because this was brought up in the aftermath as well, when Devin, Nani, pretty much the whole Emerald team was just there in the studio talking about how they carried Amanda, they were keeping her safe. She should have been more appreciative and sacrificed herself by staying on the Ruby team at the end of this episode instead of infiltrating us, which makes no sense whatsoever. She is here for $1 million. She should play selfishly and do what she needs to do and what she thinks is best for her game to win. And we get that in the nominations as well, where Amanda's like, I want to be the agency vote. I want to take my own fate in my own hands. And Devin is coming at her, pretty much calling her toxic, that she's playing a very toxic game, that why would you bite the hand that kept you protected throughout this whole game, because they were in the agency 4 times. And not only does Devin get into this, but also Josh saying like, this is my shot. This is my chance to run the finals with who I think and the best team that I've ever been on. Why can't you just see that and hopefully stay on your own team? It's like, this is not what the game was meant to be, where everybody's just like, oh yeah, you like your team and you want to be on that team and you've been able to win 4 daily challenges in a row because you have the most players. Oh, do you want me to just give you the win? No, I'm here for myself. At the end of the day, you're here to play your own solo game. And Amanda's like, I want to be on your team that gives me a better shot of winning. And if I stay on that team and run the finals with your team, possibly I can win my share of $1 million. But everybody else is ragging on Amanda, saying like she's playing selfishly. Good, please play selfishly. I want to see the Emerald team get infiltrated. I want to see some messiness, and we get to see it in this episode, in the nominations, where I think Emerald is frustrated with Amanda, and we're seeing that emotion out of them finally. And even in the club, when we had Nani yelling at Amanda for trying to play mind games with the Emerald team and kind of getting in Casey's face. I loved it. Also, something I want to bring up in the nomination ceremony is when the agency sits down, we see that there are 3 of the 4 agency members and there's 1 seat missing. Now, in the confessionals, they want to make it out like, oh, well, Ashley is missing. I wonder where she could be. I don't know what's going on with Ashley, but by this time, I feel like they knew what was going on with Ashley and that she was pulled from the game, because one point in the nomination ceremony, we had Amanda saying like, why would I go over to Sapphire? They only have 3 people. And then after this nomination ceremony was over and she was having a conversation with Josh, she said that, well, it just shows me who my real friends are in this game. It's not you, it's not Devin, and it just shows me that Nelson is my only friend in this game. And why would Amanda say that if Ashley was still in contention or was just gone from the game for a second and then was coming back? So at that point, I felt like, okay, Ashley is completely gone from this game. Then we have a quick conversation between Tori and Josh, where Tori was talking to Josh about stuff that was said in the nomination ceremony, saying like Tori felt like she was expendable because of what Josh told Amanda, but Josh was like, that wasn't what I said at all. She was trying to back me into a corner and I answered it wrong. I don't think you're expendable. I think we're friends. And Tori's like, I get it, but the feelings are still there and I feel hurt. This is when the alarms are ringing. Everyone dons their elimination gear to meet TJ at the lair. And once we are at the lair, that is when TJ mentions that, hey, you notice that Ashley wasn't here. She broken one of our rules and she was pulled from the game and she was deactivated. So Ashley has been DQ'd from the game. I couldn't find anything specifically about why she was pulled from the game. I found this tweet that she posted to her social media when the announcement was made that she was deactivated from the game. And I have to mention that that is not the challenge Twitter handle. We proceed with the elimination. We have TJ calling down Amanda. She calls out Big T to go up against in this week's elimination called Escape Vault.
Strike that. Reverse it. This way, please.
In this elimination, there is a 20 vault wall that the women are gonna have to climb up via trying to pull out the vault and doing the right combination of turns to pull the vault out, and then climb all 8 to then ring a bell. Whoever rings their bell first will win this elimination, stay in the game, and then get to choose which cell that they want to infiltrate. Right off the bat, Amanda has a great strategy where she is just doing little tugs as she is slowly moving and turning the knobs, whereas Big T, on the other hand, is just using all of her arms and using a lot of her strength to try to like jimmy this knob out of there instead of using a finesse strategy. it's working very well for Amanda. She gets 2 locks over Big T early on, but then when we get to the 4th lock, we get into a deadlock between the 2 women, and they are actually neck and neck. But then at that point, we see Amanda just getting into a rhythm. She gets 2 to 3 locks over Big T, and then she gets to her 8th lock and then jumps and rings her bell. Amanda wins this elimination, gets to stay in this game, where everyone else says goodbye to Big T, and we see her walk into the darkness, walk off screen, but then a second goes by, a little bit of silence, and then TJ goes, wait a minute, Big T, come back. Come on back, Big T. And Big T does this like, what? What's going on? What is happening? And the producers then shuffle Big T out there. Big T comes back, stands next to Amanda, and TJ says, I've been thinking about it, and because Ashley was deactivated, nobody should really go home. So, Big T, you could stay in the game, and you have to go back to Ruby, whereas Amanda can have the choice on infiltrating any team that she wants. I really like this twist. I like that they were able to go into the elimination, do their thing, and Big T was able to stay in the game. I love this instead of just saying there's no elimination for this episode. You get to keep the twist in this game alive because now Amanda infiltrates Emerald, takes Tori's spot. Tori goes over to Ruby and she is pissed, and Amanda goes over to the Emerald team. I just loved that they did it this way. I really enjoyed the elimination. I thought it was pretty interesting. I thought it was a good equalizer between the 2 competitors. I actually had a pretty good time watching this episode this week. I thought it was one of the better episodes of the season and one of the better daily missions, one of the better eliminations, and just had more drama. I loved seeing the Emerald team get infiltrated. I loved seeing them sweat. I hated the way that they were like coming at Amanda and saying that they carried her this whole time. And it's just like, come on now. She's playing her game, you play yours, and you are just upset that somebody infiltrated your team. Get over it. You still have 6 players on your team while one team has 3 and the other team has 4. Get over it and keep playing your game. You're in the game still. So I didn't like the way that they were coming at it, but I loved because they were sweating and they were in the hot seat that they were doing anything and they were taking desperate shots at Amanda, and I just really, really enjoyed it. Top notch this episode. But that is it for this week's episode. What'd you think about this episode? Let me know that in the comment section below. What'd you think about the daily mission? What'd you think about the elimination? What'd you think about Emerald being sweaty and being in the hot seat? Are you happy that Emerald had infiltrated the team? And are you happy that Amanda is playing a selfish game? Let me know anything and everything you thought about this episode down in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. While you're down there, hit that like and subscribe button. I'll be back really, really soon with more Challenge 37 content, more challenge content, more content in general. But until then, peace.